The Panasonic GM1 is arguably the most sought-after pocket-sized mirrorless camera currently available. I even went so far as to dub it as being one of the best mini mirrorless cameras ever made, and for good reason. It's small, it's sleek, it's powerful, but due to its popularity, the price has climbed so high that I'm pretty sure Leica is planning to rebrand it and pretend they invented it. So what if I told you there's another camera, one that basically nobody ever talks about, that does 90% of what the GM1 does, and even fixes several of its biggest problems? And the best part is that you can pick one up for a fraction of the cost. I'm talking about this, the Olympus E-PM2, a camera that might just be the smartest street and travel camera purchase you'll make in 2026. Why? Well, let's talk about it. Now, as the name suggests, the Olympus E-PM2 is the second entry in Olympus's tiniest ever mirrorless camera line, with the PM part of its name being short for Penis Minimus, which is actually Latin for micropenis, a name chosen because of the camera's unique chode-like appearance. Okay, fine, it stands for Pen Mini, but equally as tragic as having a micropenis, this camera was also the last one ever released, because they only ever made 2 models before the whole Pen Mini concept vanished into the void faster than my hairline. Now, that was mainly because it was overshadowed by the larger and more powerful Pens and OMD line, which, to be honest, is a total shame because the E-PM2 was and still is quietly brilliant. It's small, it's lightweight, it's discreet, it uses the same exact 16 megapixel 4/3 sensor that Olympus stuffed into the legendary OMD EM5. And it just so happens that this is the exact same sensor that Panasonic later used in the GM1. So straight away, the image quality you get out of this thing is not going to be vintage bargain bin, it's quite literally the GM1 level quality. So if that's the case, then why have these cameras been so quickly forgotten about, whilst it seems you can't go a week without someone mentioning the GM1? See, I've just done it again. Well, it's pretty simple really. Just like me in my early teens, and let's be honest, in my 20s and 30s, the Pen Minis just weren't that sexy. They weren't fashionable, and they had just about as much riz as Donald Trump would do if you took away all his wealth and his private jet flights to a small tropical island. And now, well over a decade later, whilst the GM1 has become somewhat of a cult icon, the E-PM2 is sitting quietly in the corner like a kid who never learned how to brag about himself. And honestly, that's only good news for you. Let me explain why. Now, if you happen to have seen my review of this camera's sibling, the E-PM1, the original Pen Mini, you'll know how much I loved how stupidly tiny that camera was, but I also disliked how it handled like a wet bar of soap and was ugly as sin to boot. Luckily, this E-PM2 fixes almost all of that. For starters, it looks miles better. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not winning any beauty contests, but at least it's not borderline offensive to look at anymore. It also feels way less slippery to hold, mainly because they actually added a half-decent grip on the front here and also a thumb rest on the back. Well, mine's partially snapped off now, but just use your imagination. Imagination! It's also large enough where attaching an affordable wrist strap, like this $25 one that I use, doesn't feel silly. And I find that whilst using a wrist strap like this, it makes a huge difference because it means that you can keep the camera glued in your hand, and that increases the likelihood that you're going to bag a great shot. I'll be sure to leave a link below as to where I bought this one for anyone who might be interested. This in combination not only makes it much more comfortable to hold, but also more stable. And that makes a big difference when you want to equip it with slightly larger lenses, which is kind of a no-no with the GM1. Believe me, I've taken this theory to the max. Anyway, while staying on the topic of comparing this directly to the GM1, it isn't just the handling that offers an upgrade either. It slaps in terms of performance too. Not only is the battery life over 50% better than on the GM1, but the Pen Mini also benefits from Olympus's super fast contrast detect AF system. The same one that made the OMD series famous, and even today it's absolutely rapid. Whilst both of these cameras rely entirely on contrast detect AF, this Pen Mini genuinely leaves the GM1 looking more dazed and confused than Bonnie Blue after her world record attempt. Hand on heart, this difference alone makes this Olympus much more desirable to use over the GM1, and that's coming from someone who is a self-confessed GM1 acolyte. But it gets better because it also comes bundled with IBIS too. Sure, it's only 2-axis IBIS, but let me remind you that the GM1 doesn't have IBIS at all, and having any kind of stabilization in a camera this small is a massive quality of life improvement. Whilst both of these cameras have a proper mechanical curtain, the Olympus can reach speeds as fast as 1/4000th of a second. Meanwhile, the GM1 is limited to just 1/500th of a second, after which you're forced into using the electronic shutter only. So with all of that in mind, it's kind of hard to believe that this Pen Mini is just a fraction of the cost of the GM1. How much cheaper, you might be asking? Well, I happen to buy my copy from Japan for just under 20,000 yen, which is roughly $134. And that price even included a 14 to 42mm lens. Meanwhile, used copies of the GM1 are still selling for $400, $500, sometimes $600 on the usual auction sites. Now, on that topic, a question that I often get asked is, where do I manage to buy my cameras so cheap? Well, I've kind of already given you the answer, and that's from Japan. Why? Well, even after shipping costs, it usually works out a lot cheaper, and I can sometimes save myself a few $100s if I find a particularly good bargain. Now, whilst in the past buying from Japan used to be a bit of a minefield, unless of course you happen to have someone on the inside doing all of the dodgy deals for you, thankfully that's not the case anymore, because these days I use a service called Buyee, who also happen to be the sponsors of this episode. Now, if you didn't already know, Buyee is a proxy site that lets you browse and bid on Japanese auctions from Yahoo Auctions, Mercari, and Rakuten, and they do that by translating them into English or a choice of other languages. Once you win a bid, Buyee also helps you to handle the shipping process too. That includes arranging the item to be shipped to one of their warehouses where it will be inspected to make sure what you bought is actually legitimate, packaging it all up securely afterwards, and forwarding the item straight to your doorstep. You can even bundle multiple items together into a single parcel to help reduce shipping costs, and they ship worldwide. This month, there are coupons available for all first-time Buyee users, allowing you to get discounts on purchased items, service fees, and even free international shipping. You can even combine these coupons together for even bigger savings on your orders. It's completely free to sign up and browse, so if you want to check out Buyee for yourself, I've dropped a link in the pinned comment and video description below. But anyway, back to these cameras, and what about the image quality? Well, as I mentioned earlier on, they both share the same sensor, so you're getting more or less the same classic 16 megapixel micro four thirds look. Now, notice how I said more or less, because whilst they might share the same chip inside, each brand will of course use their own blend of color science, so there will be subtle differences between the results captured. And as riveting as I'm sure it would be to do a highly scientific deep dive into the intricacies of these color modes, we're not going to do that in this video, because my worry is that that might be just too exciting and I might cause mass casualties from too many overinflated erections.
Well, what do you think?
It's a 20-foot cock and balls, man!
And personally, I can't have that kind of thing weighing on my already somewhat blackened conscience. So in a nutshell, the GM1 tends to render warmer and the E-PM2 tends to render cooler, sometimes with more of a magenta tint. But honestly, both look great, and which you prefer will ultimately boil down to personal preference. Either way, this Mini 2 produces lovely colors, offers great raw flexibility, and it even pairs really nicely with my own color presets. And that's because they've all been designed to work seamlessly with both modern and older cameras, and they'll help to dramatically speed up your editing workflow. You just click the preset you like the most, make some minor adjustments using the sliders if you really want to, and boom, you're done. And if you happen to be interested, I'll leave a link below as to where you can find them for yourself, as well as a 15% discount code to save you a little extra cash. The dynamic range is pretty decent for a camera of its age, and noise performance is respectable up to ISO 1600, usable at 3200, and survivable at 6400 and above if you're okay with utilizing AI noise removal to get rid of some of the grit. But how about the video specs? Well, this is again where these cameras are almost identical. Almost. Both cameras top out at 1080p up to 30 frames per second, which is fine for casual video capture, but not much good for anything professional these days. However, where this Olympus has the edge is with its built-in IBIS. This means that handheld footage can actually look nicer straight out of the camera with less jitter and no more feeling like the operator had way too much coffee. So, just to recap for a moment, this Olympus option is cheaper, easier to hold, has better autofocus, actually has stabilization, and uses the same sensor, meaning it produces near identical image quality. So all of that begs the question, why would anyone ever choose to buy the GM1 over this? Well, actually, for a few reasons. Firstly, the GM1 looks, feels, and is just infinitely more premium. It's made of metal rather than cheaper plastics, and stylistically, it's way better looking, and smaller too. Whilst these screens on the back might look like they're the same size, the GM1's monitor has over doubled the resolution, resulting in a much sharper looking display. Plus, the touchscreen functionality is more advanced, capable of understanding multi-touch commands for pinch zooming into your photos rather than just a single swipe. It also benefits from having a proper mode dial on the top here too, which is way more convenient than having to menu dive constantly like you're forced to with this Olympus. Put simply, if aesthetics and build quality are your everything, then the GM1 wins hands down. But if you happen to be someone who's willing to nurture an ugly duckling rather than being fixated on the sleeping beauty or the handsome prince or the good-looking they-them, whatever you happen to be into, then this Olympus E-PM2 might be the camera you buy thinking it's the compromise, but then realise you've actually hit the jackpot.